Olympic gold medal in me. I have seen that there can be a depression. You know, I spoke with Lindsey Vonn, who is an Olympic skier champion, and she had clinical depression, and we spoke about it. And you know, she said she missed that adrenaline rush that she would get. There was nothing like those, you know, competing in those Olympic games. And until she found recently, now she's hosting a TV show, and now she gets that same rush. You know, it's live, you can't make a mistake, it's, you know, everyone's watching you, and she found that that has helped satisfy that. And you know, I also spoke to Buzz Aldrin, who, you know, was one of the first men on the moon, and he also had clinical depression. When I spoke to him, he said, well, you know, after you go to the moon, like what else? What else is there, right? Like life on Earth is kind of boring. So, you know, the question though remains, did they have a genetic predisposition toward depression, and that, you know, maybe they were motivated to keep achieving to kind of as a coping mechanism to avoid it. And once they stopped that, you know, sort of that rat race, then the depression kicked in, you know, so it's hard to say cause and effect, but you definitely see there's adrenaline, and that level of competition can be addictive, and you can crave it. And then I think the best people are the ones who can translate that into a new activity where they can get those same positive, exciting feelings, so they don't feel like they're craving it.
Got it.
I mean, we've shown that multiple times in former athletes. So the rates of depression and sadly the rates of suicide in retired athletes is very high. Higher than one would expect in the general population, and there are multiple things that precede that, or certainly are related to it. And I think, you know, Heather points out one thing which is important: is actually is it retirement, or is it just the latest goal? So actually, if they are looking forward to the next challenge, then invariably that is what keeps it going. So goal setting is incredibly important. But of course, for a retiring athlete, what happens is the day that they retire is the day that they lose their identity. Gone. What do you do? Oh, I used to be a rower. I used to be a swimmer. Yeah, but what do you do? Oh, I used to be. It was, and that's what, and yet they've been defined by that title for decades. What they also lose is they lose that structure. You know, prior to retirement, every single day was so structured, so regimented. That is now gone. And so because of those two things, they lose purpose. And I think probably the one critical thing, is certainly a number of athletes that I've interviewed who have had depression. One of the things that they always talk about is the loss of community. You know, you talk about the ice swimming community. They were a member of a team, even in individual sports, they were a member of a team. Their friendships were in that team. Their lifestyle was in that team. They retire and it's gone. And so it's actually a critical problem for elite athletes, and particularly now in sort of modern Western countries, affluent countries, where athletes are now paid to train, paid to compete. The drive to do something else fundamentally is gone. So once they give up doing what they do, that sport, many of these athletes have absolutely nothing to fall back on.
Got it. And my last question is, when I first went to the World Ice Swimming Championships in Germany at the invitation of Ram, I was incredibly impressed for two things. One, the fastest of the ice swimmers were they did mind-boggling things. But even more so, as I was walking on the pool deck and watching these people, they were teachers, they were police officers, they were mothers, they were fathers. Nobody, if they would have been walking down the street of, you know, in New York City or London, nobody would have picked them out as an athlete. It was just, that's an adult. But these people are doing incredible things. And one of the things that Ram and I would love to do is actually bring in more people into the sport of ice swimming and open water swimming. Just really throw it out. Now, I know in England, open water swimming, wild swimming is becoming extremely popular. But how, from your two perspectives, how do we get the average person who might see Ram on TV swimming in Antarctica? How do we get that Superman and allow the average person sitting on their couch at home to think they also have a Superman within him or a Superwoman? Heather?
You know, I think it comes down to motivation. And I think it's how you frame it. So not everybody just has the innate desire. I, for one, don't have an innate desire to go swimming in the ice water. And I'm just gonna recall back to this time, you know, when Ram did that swim in Norway. I don't know if you remember this, but your hands were all chopped up because he had to cut through the ice with his hands, and they got all, you know, cut. It didn't look pleasant. In other words, right? It didn't look like a fun, like, oh, I want to try that.
Yeah.
But I think it's how you frame it. And if you frame it as, because what people are really looking for are, again, to get to these very pleasurable flow states where, you know, you lose your sense of self and you're devoid of anxiety and at peace. And one way to do it is to kind of force yourself to be present in the moment. And you do that when there are these extremes, like when you're rock climbing, and every place you put your hand is so important that you're so focused on that. And another way to get there is, you know, ice swimming, right? You have to be completely present in the moment. It kind of awakens you in a way to another brain state. And so I think if you frame it like this is a place that you can enter a different mindset, and, you know, it will help you in the other challenges that you have in life, I think that could get more people excited about it. Because I think if you're just looking at the outside of the task itself, you know, I don't know how attractive that is, but the idea that your mind can get into this wonderful state and feel invigorated, and it can bleed into other areas of your life, I think that would get people more excited about it.
Got it.
And, you know, I think for me, it's actually about community and accessibility. It's about inclusivity. I think if you look at other sports that have been incredible, let's take triathlon, for example, how successful they've been. You know, you look at the Ironman and you think that is just crazy. You know, who wants to do a 3.8K, a 2.5 mile swim, 112 mile bike followed by a marathon run? And it isn't for everybody. But guess what? You can do Olympic distance, you can do a sprint distance, you can do a super sprint distance. You know, so what they've done is that they've created a sport which is accessible to people, that they can look at it and think, I can achieve that. You know, so for ice miling, you know, there needs to be an ice half mile, an ice quarter mile, an ice length, you know, and so therefore what you've got is those stepping stones to accessibility. I think that's absolutely crucial, because I think what you've absolutely got to avoid is snobbery. And I think that many sports, particularly those you know what, I say that, I mean, but let's call them adrenaline sports, but actually it's not just adrenaline sports, I think, but there's a bit of a snobbery. You've got to have the right kit. You're not allowed, you know, for example, swimming, there's no way you can swim in a wetsuit because you've got to swim in skins. Well, some people don't want to do that at the very beginning. Let them swim in suits to begin with, and then actually they might progress and migrate into skins. And so it is about those stepping stones, which I think are important. And all of that is brought together by community. If you can create a community around an event which makes people feel included and part of that event and not sat on the outside, all of a sudden they become part of this wonderful jamboree, which is ice miling. And all of that leads to fundamentally what people are looking for if they're going to take part in this is fun, enjoyment, and community.
Got it. Man, I could listen to you two today, tomorrow, and over the next year. But we thank you very much for your time. Heather and Greg, if people want to know more about what you do, what books you have, what TV shows you're going to appear on, where can they find you?
For me, I'm very active on Twitter at Heather_Berlin, and also on Instagram. We're just going to start filming this year. It was postponed because of COVID, a series on Nova, on the brain, that I'm going to be hosting on PBS. And I'm writing my first book. It's going to be published with Simon & Schuster, and it's on impulse control and the brain and the psychology of impulse control, but also when is it good to rein it in, but when is it good to let go in these therapeutic, positive, healthy ways.
Great.
So keep a lookout for that next year.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I mean, you know, for me, the easiest place to get me is on my website, which is in a trite sense, it's called the Whyte Answer, but it's, as you see on screen, it's WHYTE. So thewhiteanswer.com, and you can just pick up just about anything on there.
Yeah, I forgot I have a website too, by the way, also.
Oh, there you go. Come on.
HeatherBerlin.com. That's also, yeah, I have a website.
I assisted you on the information. I think, Stephen, if you, one of the emails, I assisted you about Heather and Greg, the work they do. So I think I can send it to you again. Yeah.
We'll put those in the show notes so everybody knows how to learn more from these two. And thank you very, very much. It was wonderful listening to your insights, your advice, and your knowledge.
Well, thank you. It was a really stimulating discussion. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Greg and Heather. Hopefully we're going to meet in the ice again. I think I promised Heather in Norway that I'm going to take you ice swimming one day. So now that you've got 2 kids, pain is completely, you're very trained in that aspect. So,
well, I have to say this, I just found out yesterday that we're going to be in South Africa. I've never been, but my husband's family reunion, they have it every 10 years. It's the Murray family, but the Murrays, somehow there's this affiliation with the Dutch. I don't know the whole story, but it's going to be next July in Cape Town. So if you're there, I don't know if we can go ice swimming, but I'll be there.
July is the middle of the winter. We don't have ice here, but
it's cold. It's cold enough.
We can do
cold
some
enough.
cold
Yeah.
Let's start there.
It's fine me.